Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling, well, maybe the biggest theological puzzle there is.
It's certainly up there.
We're diving deep into how God's omniscience, knowing everything, every outcome, can possibly coexist with, well, our free will, real meaningful choice.
Yeah, and this isn't just philosophy for its own sake. The sources we're looking at force us to examine the very structure of reality.
How so?
We're digging into Scripture, trying to understand that relationship between the Creator and the created, things like destiny, predetermination, and also the boundaries, the limits placed on everything created, not just us, but angels too.
Right. So the mission for you listening is figuring out why things are set up this way. Why space? Why time? Why these limitations?
Exactly. We want to pull out those insights that explain this reality as essentially a stage, a place designed for understanding love, real love, and making choices that actually mean something.
It's like trying to see the divine blueprint, maybe. Moving past just saying, I believe, to understanding the how and why.
Precisely. How eternity interacts with our temporary existence.
Okay, let's unpack this. And surprisingly, we're starting with an ancient law about slaves. Seems an odd place to begin.
It does, but the analogy is surprisingly powerful.
So Exodus 21, our sources are drawing a deep spiritual lesson from, a pretty specific law about Hebrew servants. What's the basic setup?
Okay, so you have a Hebrew servant. He served his time 6 years, the law says. He's done his duty. Legally, he's supposed to go free.
Straightforward enough. Contract fulfilled, freedom granted.
Right. If he came into service single, he leaves single. Simple.
But then there's a complication, is there? Verse 4.
Yes, the complication. What if the master gave him a wife during his service? And what if they had kids?
That changes things drastically.
It does.
Yeah.
The law, and it sounds harsh to us, says the wife and children belong to the master. If the servant wants his freedom, he leaves alone, just like he came.
Wow. That puts him in an impossible spot. Freedom or his family and the life he's built within servitude, that's a brutal choice.
It is, and that's the absolute pivot point, verse 5. The servant, who has every legal right to just walk away, says, and this is key, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I will not go out free.
He chooses servitude when freedom is right there.
He chooses it willingly, deliberately. He rejects his own freedom.
And the sources say this choice is all about love, not just, being stuck.
Entirely about love. That's the interpretation. His reason for not living by his own will, for staying, is for his master and for his family, who represent, in a way, the master's provision and blessing.
Okay, that reframes service completely. It's not obligation anymore. It's surrender, voluntary surrender.
But you raised a good point earlier. How can it be loving if the master holds all the cards, holds the family hostage, basically?
Exactly. It seems like coercion, not love.
And that's where the spiritual analogy takes over. For this kind of eternal chosen servitude to be truly based on love, the sources stress something crucial has to happen first.
Which is?
The master must set the ultimate example. The master has to lay down his life for the servant first. Okay. So now we're talking about God, about Christ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think Matthew 20.28. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom, the servant's choice to give up his freedom forever. It's only possible as a response to the master's incredible sacrifice first.
So the master pays the ultimate price, establishing the bond's value. Then the servant responds in love, not the other way around.
Right. It removes the element of coercion and makes it about reciprocal love.
Okay. So if the servant makes this choice, this permanent surrender out of love, there's a ritual, something formal.
Yes. Verse 6 describes it. It's very specific. The master takes the servant before the judges. This makes it official, legal, permanent.
Public and binding.
Then they go to the doorpost.
Yeah.
The entrance to the home, the place of belonging, and the master takes an awl.
Like a sharp tool.
Yeah, a pointed tool. And he pierces the servant's earlobe against the doorpost.
Pierces his ear. Why the ear? The text says this signifies he shall serve him forever. It's permanent. Spiritually, the pierced ear symbolizes hearing and obeying. It connects to that idea of having ears to hear, being receptive to the master's voice, the Holy Spirit.
So it's a physical mark of a permanent, loving choice to listen and obey forever.
Yeah, that's the connection the sources make. It's a self-chosen surrender, sealed by love and marked by the readiness to hear.
Let's pause on that implication. This connects back to, everything, our existence. 1 Corinthians 4.7 asks, what do you have that you didn't receive? Our life, our consciousness, even our free will It's all a gift, isn't it?
It is. And the takeaway here is about completing that relationship. The creature gets life and free will as a gift.
Right.
And then through this act of loving surrender, symbolized by the pierced ear, chooses to give that free will back to God, to live eternally with God.
It's a paradox then. Find eternal life by giving up your autonomy.
Voluntarily, out of love, and the cross. That's central here.
How so?
The cross isn't just about forgiveness. Our sources frame it as the actual means by which the creature is perfected, completed. Our self-will gets harmonized with God's perfect will through Christ's sacrifice and our response to it.
So this whole life, this temporary stage, is about making that transition from my way to your way.
That's the idea, a transition enabled by the cross.
Okay, but this sets up the huge question we started with. If this destiny, this perfected will, is achieved through such a personal, costly choice, how can it be a real choice if God knew the outcome before I even existed? Right, this is where my brain starts to hurt. If God knows everything, knows if I'll choose the pierced ear or walk away free, doesn't that make my choice just a performance? Like I'm just acting out a script he wrote. Is it really free will or just predetermination? Or even worse, fatalism?
Okay, deep breath. To even begin to grapple with this, we have to fundamentally shift how we think about time. That's the first step.
How do you mean?
God isn't in time like we are. Time and space aren't part of his essential being. They're things he created, structures he designed.
So time isn't some river God is floating down to. It's more like a container he built.
Yeah.
And he stands outside it.
Exactly. A container, a map, a book, pick your analogy. Because he's outside it, he's simultaneously present at every point within it. All moments, all places. Think Jeremiah 23, am I a God nearby and not a God far away? He fills everything.
So for God, my past, my present, my future, it's all just there, happening at once from his perspective.
That's the concept. Our linear experience, this agonizing crawl from yesterday to tomorrow, that's a limitation for us, for creatures inside the box, not for the one who built the box.
Okay. Psalm 90 says 1,000 years is like a day to God or a watch in the night. That's not just poetry.
It's expressing that reality. Time is a created, contained thing he upholds. Psalm 145 talks about his greatness being unsearchable. He sustains infinity.
All right. If God exists outside of time, then yeah, his knowledge must cover everything inside it. The end from the beginning, like Isaiah says. First and the last.
And the Bible gives examples. Knowing us before we were even conceived, Psalm 139, Jeremiah 1. Knowing our days, our very substance.
But the sources push this foreknowledge even further, especially regarding prayer. This part really surprised me.
It's a mind bender, all right. The idea presented is that God knew every prayer that would ever be prayed before he even started creating.
Before the Big Bang, before Genesis 1.1, he knew I'd be asking for whatever I ask for tomorrow.
That's the assertion. Think about Matthew 6. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him.
Okay, wait. If he knew the prayer from eternity past, what about the answer? Did he decide the answer back then too? Or does he wait for me to actually pray it in my timeline?
This is where we hit that deep water of predetermination. The source material states it quite boldly. God already answered all prayers before creation began.
Hold on. If the prayer was known and the answer was given before I even existed, does my praying it now actually do anything? It sounds like I'm just going through the motions. That feels like fatalism, like my actions don't matter.
I understand why it feels that way, but the crucial distinction the sources make is between fatalism and sovereignty. Fatalism is an impersonal force making things happen regardless of choice. Divine sovereignty, in this view, is a personal, loving God knowing from eternity what you, as a genuinely free creature, will choose to do and ask.
So, he knew I would choose to pray, and therefore he prepared the answer. The answer exists because the freely chosen prayer was foreseen.
That's the way it's framed. The meaning isn't in changing a predetermined outcome because from God's eternal perspective, the outcome incorporates your choice. The meaning is in the process. It's in your choosing, here in time, to align your will with God's, to engage in that relationship, to ask.
So my prayer isn't causing God to decide. It's me participating in time, in a conversation whose broad strokes were already known in eternity. My choice unfolds the known plan.
Exactly. Your prayer demonstrates your character, your relationship with God, unfolding sequentially within time. But God's overall plan, which accounted for your prayer, is already accomplished from his timeless view. Romans 9 touches on this God preparing vessels, knowing their choices, placing them in situations where their choices will emerge.
Like setting the stage, knowing how the actor will play the part freely.
That's one way to think about it. He designs the context, knowing the choice that will flow from the creature's own heart.
And the specific prophecies, like naming King Josiah or King Cyrus centuries ahead, those are like fixed points on this eternal map.
They're presented as evidence of this, proofs that God isn't guessing. He's revealing points on a timeline he already perceives in its entirety. He created the sequence. He sustains it.
Okay, the key difference then is God's predetermination isn't forcing my choice, it's his perfect knowledge of my genuine free choice. Is that fair?
That's the core distinction the sources maintain. It's knowledge, not coercion.
All right, so this level of sovereignty, this view from outside time, it must apply to all created things, right? Not just humans. What about angels? We tend to think of them as almost outside the rules.
That's a common image, but the sources are quite clear. Angels are creatures too. They are part of the created cosmos, not the creator. And that means they're also bound by space and time.
By space and time.
Really?
Angels.
Yes. If they existed outside time and space, they'd essentially be omnipresent. They could be everywhere at once, no past and future, instantly.
Which they clearly aren't. Scripture shows them moving from place to place, delivering messages.
Yeah.
They have locations.
Precisely. That's a fundamental difference. They are ministering spirits sent forth. Implies travel, implies locality. They exist within the heavens, but those created heavens are still part of the space-time framework God made.
Okay, if angels are limited by time and space, that must mean their knowledge is also limited, right? They can't be omniscient.
Absolutely. And this limitation is crucial for understanding, well, the entire plan of salvation, according to 1 Corinthians 2.
The hidden wisdom.
Exactly. Paul talks about God's wisdom, his plan for redemption through the cross being deliberately hidden, kept secret for ages. Why?
Well, the text says if the rulers of this age had known it, they wouldn't have crucified the Lord of glory.
Right. And rulers of this age likely includes not just human powers, but spiritual ones, demonic forces, maybe even unaware angels to some extent. The plan depended on their ignorance. Their free, albeit corrupt, choices had to unknowingly bring about the very means of their defeat and our salvation.
So the mystery was essential. God had to conceal the full scope of the plan, even from powerful spiritual beings, to ensure it unfolded correctly through creaturely choices.
It seems so, and this directly confirms angels aren't all-knowing. Ephesians 3 actually says God's wisdom is now being made known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly realms through the church.
Wait, angels are learning from us, from watching the church.
That's what it suggests. They observe the unfolding plan over time and learn more about God's multifaceted wisdom. They don't have automatic access to the whole blueprint. Job even hints that God finds flaws in his angels. They aren't perfect in knowledge or judgment.
Okay, so angels are powerful, but still creatures, still limited. Which brings us back to the big why. Why did God create this whole system, space, time, limitations for everyone, including angels? What's the point of these constraints?
The sources point to two main interconnected purposes for this specific setup, this space-time reality.
Okay, what's the first one?
Purpose number one is relational. It's designed to reveal God's love specifically through the cross to creatures who couldn't grasp its depth otherwise. You need limitations, suffering, cost things possible within time and space to demonstrate that kind of sacrificial love.
The stage allows the ultimate drama of love to be performed and witnessed.
You could say that. And the second purpose, it links right back to that servant in Exodus.
Perfecting free will.
Exactly, allowing the creature's free will to be completed. It's not enough for will to be granted. It needs to mature, to be tested, and ultimately to be voluntarily surrendered back to God in love. And that requires a context or reality where choices have real uncertain consequences from our perspective.
Which means we can't know the future. If I knew for sure how things would turn out, my choice wouldn't really be a choice, would it? It loses its risk, its virtue.
That's a critical point. The boundary of ignorance is necessary to protect the integrity of free will. If creatures could know their entire future and still had the capacity to sin or make mistakes, well, the sources suggest God doesn't permit that combination.
Why not?
Because a creature knowing the future with certainty, yet still capable of choosing wrongly, could potentially disrupt the entire cosmic order in ways we can't fathom. The limitation or ignorance of tomorrow is actually a form of divine protection, ensuring the process works.
That's fascinating. So our ability to mess up is tied to our inability to see the end result.
In a manner of speaking, yes. And this whole temporal unfolding process serves one final crucial function: cosmic justice.
How do the limitations serve justice?
It allows everyone's choices, their character, their acceptance or rejection of God's offer, to be revealed openly over time before witnesses. Think Revelation 20, the judgment based on the book's recording deeds. It ensures that when salvation or judgment occurs, all other created beings, the neighbor creatures, angels, the redeemed, can see why. They understand and assent to the justice of it.
So the process itself validates the outcome. Nothing is hidden. It all plays out on the stage of time.
Right. The limitation allows for transparency and universal acknowledgement of God's righteousness in the end.
Okay, now we arrive at what feels like the sharpest point of this whole discussion. The intersection of God's nature and creaturely limits within one person, Jesus Christ, the Son, specifically concerning his knowledge about the timing of his own return, Matthew 24:36.
Ah, yes, the verse that sparks so much debate. Spoken by Jesus during his earthly ministry. But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father.
Not even the Son, that's jarring.
Yeah.
How can the Son of God not know something?
Yeah.
And the big question is, does he know now? He's resurrected, ascended, glorified. Does that limitation still apply?
That's the core of the debate. Our sources outline two main ways of thinking about this. Viewpoint one is, yes, the Son knows now, post-ascension.
What's the argument for him knowing now?
Well, primarily it's based on his current authority and role. Look at the book of Revelation. The resurrected, glorified Christ reveals the entire detailed sequence of end-time events to John's seals, trumpets, bowls, the millennium.
Right, he's the one giving the information.
Exactly. So the argument is, why would the one revealing the whole schedule, the whole sequence, not know the actual start date and time? It seems inconsistent.
And there's the precedent with prophecies, too.
Yes. Think back to Daniel. The angel Gabriel, who we've established is limited, still knew the specific timeline of the 70 weeks prophecy given to Daniel, if an angel could know that detail.
How could the Son, who is the subject of much prophecy and the establisher of those timelines, not know the final timing now that he's, well, running the show?
Precisely. And that leads to the argument from control. He's not just the subject anymore. He's seated on the throne. 1 Peter 3 says angels, authorities, and powers are subject to him. He's ruling space and time.
So it seems highly unlikely, from this viewpoint, that the supreme ruler wouldn't know the timing of his own climactic return.
It feels improbable to many. Plus, his return isn't random. It's tied to specific revealed criteria being met.
Like the number of martyrs being completed or the 144,000 being sealed, things mentioned in Revelation.
Correct. Revelation 6 or Revelation 14. The timing depends on these counters reaching their predetermined number. Knowing the date of the return is essentially knowing when the first resurrection happens, which 1 Corinthians 15 ties to the seventh trumpet, if he revealed the sequence and the triggers. He must know when those triggers are met. Okay, that's a strong case for viewpoint one. The Son knows now. But what about viewpoint two? The idea that he might still not know the exact day and hour. How is that defended?
Viewpoint 2 really leans into the implications of the incarnation itself, the concept of kenosis, or self-emptying.
Philippians 2, where it says he emptied himself, took the form of a servant.
Exactly. He chose to become a creature, fully human. And this viewpoint argues that accepting the creaturely form means accepting its inherent limitations, even in his resurrected, glorified state.
So the limitation wasn't just for his 33 years on Earth. It might continue in some way.
That's the argument from limitation. As a creature, even a perfect and glorified one, he might operate according to the principle Jesus himself stated in John 5. The Son can do nothing of himself, but only what he sees the Father doing. His knowledge might still be dependent on what the Father chooses to reveal.
So the Father could still be withholding that specific piece of data, the date, even from the Son on the throne. It's proposed as a possibility to maintain the integrity of the Son's role as the perfect creature, the model human. Luke 20 even says those resurrected are like the angels, which might imply still operating within certain created, non-omnipresent bounds.
Okay, but suggesting the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, has a knowledge gap, even a self-imposed one, that feels problematic theologically to some. Why would he maintain that limitation?
The purpose, according to this view, is profound: obedience and example. If the Son, even in glorified creaturely form, knew absolutely everything about the future, how could he genuinely command us, who are completely ignorant of the future, to live by faith, to obey, to watch, and be ready?
If he knew the date, his watching would be different from our watching.
Precisely. By potentially maintaining this one specific limitation, he perfectly models the reliance on the Father that every creature needs. He walked that path of faith and obedience without knowing the end date, setting the pattern for us, as 1 Peter 2 suggests.
So we're wrestling with the hypostatic union again, fully God, fully man. How does infinite knowledge coexist with genuine, potentially limited human experience, even post-resurrection?
It's a mystery that pushes our understanding to its limits. How does the eternal Word, existing outside time, also operate within time in his resurrected form, possibly still embracing certain chosen limitations? We can't fully resolve it from our perspective.
So, faced with these two compelling yet seemingly contradictory viewpoints, what's the takeaway? What do the sources advise?
The advice is essentially one of humility, caution. Don't speculate beyond what's clearly revealed. Romans 12 warns against thinking of ourselves more highly than we ought. Trying to definitively pin down the Son's current knowledge on this specific point might be stepping into that territory of unwise speculation. #outro.
Wow. Okay, what a journey. We've gone from an ancient law about servitude all the way to the limits of angelic knowledge and the potential self-limitation of the Son of God.
It covers a lot of ground.
We've seen how free will finds its ultimate meaning, its perfection, in loving surrender. We've grappled with God existing utterly outside of time, yet interacting with us within it. And we've understood that all creation, us, angels, everything, operates within limits designed for a purpose.
Limits designed to reveal God's love and to forge and reveal our own character through choice.
Right. And that brings us to the final practical point for you listening. Regardless of which view you lean towards on whether the Son knows the exact day or hour right now.
The conclusion for us is actually the same.
How so?
Because he will come back exactly according to the sequence he already laid out. That part isn't debated.
The sequence is the guarantee.
Yes. 2 Thessalonians 2 is clear. Certain things must happen first: the apostasy, the revealing of the man of lawlessness.
Right.
Since the sequence is fixed and revealed.
Our job isn't date setting.
No. Our focus shouldn't be trying to guess the hidden when, but recognizing the signs, the unfolding preparatory events he did tell us about, and living ready. Vigilance based on the what, not the when.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into our final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. We talked about how God knew and answered every prayer before creation even began. How our choices are known results from his eternal perspective.
Yeah, that heavy concept.
So here's the question. What does it truly mean for your life today? The choices you make, the prayers you offer, the love you show or don't show. To realize that your free will isn't just forging an unknown future, but is actually the beautiful, necessary, moment-by-moment unfolding of a destiny already complete, already known, already perfected in the eyes of the eternal I Am.
Your choice isn't primarily a test for God. It's a revelation of you participating in his known plan.
Something profound to think about. We hope this deep dive has given you plenty of insight. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.